In just over 1 year, Israel's coalition government has run its course. The coalition lost its majority after multiple lawmakers quit the government. Now the coalition heads have decided to dissolve the Knesset. Naftali, Bennett and Yair Lapid will dissolve the Knesset next week. The two leaders say they have exhausted all efforts to stabilize the coalition. That will mean that Israel will head to its 5th elections in over 3 years. The elections are likely to take place in October. Once the government is dissolved, Lapid will take over as the country's caretaker prime minister. This is until a new government is sworn in. Lapid will also be the one to greet US President Joe Biden when he visits Israel next month. Earlier today, Bennett's government defeated 2 votes of no confidence in the Knesset. This despite rebellions in the coalition. Reports suggest that the coalition's plan is to have an election on their own terms. They did not want to be forced out by Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel's coalition government was the most diverse in its history, spanning from the far right to the far left. But in recent weeks, the coalition has been rocked by instability. Both the left and the right have the same claim. The government has swung too far to the other side. There have been defections, and coalition members have refused to vote with the government. For more on this latest development, our correspondent Jody Cohen is joining us live from Jerusalem. Jody, hi. What's the latest on the upcoming polls?
Hi, Eric. Well, of course, we've been speaking about this possibility that this could happen over the last few weeks. So it's not really a surprise. But then again, when it happens, it obviously does come as a bit of a shock. We've just actually heard that Defense Minister Benny Gantz reportedly did not hear about this announcement before it was made by Prime Minister Bennett and Foreign Minister and alternate Prime Minister Yair Lapid. So we know that next week there's going to be a vote that will take place in Israel's parliament in the Knesset, which is likely to dissolve the parliament. This is Israel's 36th government. And as you said, it's the most diverse in Israel's history. Now, some people are saying that is this the end of the experiment of having such a diverse government? And that doesn't necessarily mean that it will be. We already have been hearing that potentially they could, under Prime Minister Netanyahu, has potentially secretly been speaking with Mansour Abbas, the head of the Ram Party, the Islamist Arab Party that is part of this coalition government. So, there's a lot to go between now and elections, as you said, and October, as you said, when the elections are likely to be held. That's because there are legal constraints. There's the summer holidays. There's the Jewish holidays in September. So we're not likely to see elections until the end of October. A lot can happen between now and then. But it's looking likely that this government will be dissolved next week in the parliament.
Jody, what does this say about the current Prime Minister Naftali Bennett and his future?
That's probably the most difficult question you can ask me right now, because some polls are predicting that, he might not even cross the threshold in a future election. Others are saying that he might maintain his level of seats. There's talk potentially of a realignment of some of the right-wing parties and bringing them together in a new grouping. That would be almost as if a new political party. So you can never rule out former prime ministers, former party leaders in this country. They have a way of coming back, as potentially former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu might yet again do if he were to win the forthcoming election. And we do know that Likud is the most popular political party in Israel. But whether or not he will have enough to form a coalition government is anyone's guess. And in the meantime, Yair Lapid will be the interim prime minister and the caretaker prime minister until a new government can be formed, which, as we've seen, could take a while.
Jody, finally, reports say Mansour Abbas is in talks with Likud party over forming a new government. What does this meeting signify in the upcoming elections?
Well, I think it really signifies that we could be seeing a broad coalition yet again. We don't know. A week is a very long time in politics in Israel, never mind between now and the end of October. But potentially we could be seeing a right-wing religious coalition led by Netanyahu and including Mansour Abbas's Ba'ath Party, the Islamist Arab Party. We are likely to see representation from the Arab parties again, from the centrist parties, also potentially with a right-wing religious government. There are those who are, absolutely saying that they won't sit with Netanyahu, but then people change their minds. Things happen for the sake of unity. People change their minds. So it will be interesting to see how the election campaigning progresses, how the election goes, whether or not we'll see one election and a decisive victory, or if we're going to see multiple elections again, and ultimately the makeup of the coalition government.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Live from Jerusalem, our correspondent Jody Cohen, as always, thank you. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.